Here in D.C., a huge percentage of the economy is based on the service industry, almost 1/3. And that figure is true in many of the nation's cities from New York to Los Angeles.
Recently laid off restaurant workers launched a national week of action demanding an extension of that $600 federal unemployment benefit. And joining us now to talk about that effort is Ivy Vance. She's a restaurant employee and one of the organizers who is calling on Congress to act. Ivy, we're glad to have you this morning.
Good to see you, Ivy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. So just talk to us about the movement and what it is that you and your fellow activists are demanding.
So we started as a group of restaurant workers and organizers coming around safety in the workplace with COVID obviously being on the forefront of our minds. But as we started to meet more restaurant workers, we realized a lot of us were still laid off, and that the bigger crisis at hand here is that a lot of our jobs aren't coming back, not to mention the temporary closures due to COVID and other state rulings. So our movement is really launched into this Unemployed Workers campaign so that we can organize these unemployed workers who likely won't have jobs to return to for the long term. And so the federal unemployment is a huge thing for us because it's really what is between having a home and being evicted.
Yeah, and Ivy, just lay that out for a little bit for the audience and maybe some of your frustration with Congress here. I mean, who do you put the major blame on? Is it the Republicans? Is it the Democrats? And so much more. What are the actual stakes here of unemployment for your life and for so many of the other people that you find that you're organizing with?
Yeah, the stakes are super high. It feels, both on the Democratic and the Republican side, and now we bring the president into it as well. Feels like they're all letting us down. We had that moment in March where they came together, and we felt that was a really good moment for all of us in the country. But then the rug's been pulled out from underneath us, and not only in my own life, but we call through a list of restaurant workers every week, and I talk to them. And some people will say, it was between, if I didn't get that unemployment, I would have lost my house. And you hear stories like that all the time. And it's just becoming worse because they think that there are jobs for us to return to, but there aren't. In Texas, the bars are still closed. So although some restaurant workers have been able to return to work, certainly not all, they can't hire the whole staffs back. The bar workers are still completely unemployed.
And Ivy, can you speak a little bit about your own personal experience? Tell us about your job, how long you'd worked there, and what this phase in the pandemic has been like for you.
Yeah, so I worked there for about 6 months, and I'm in Texas, I'm in Dallas. So they reopened pretty early. They called through the staff, and they couldn't hire everyone back, but they needed, a partial staff to reopen. So they've been slowly bringing staff on, and the unemployment for me has been a huge help. I mean, I don't know what I would do without it. I mean, I wouldn't be able to pay rent. I live with my partner. He's working from home, so I do have a little flexibility there. But, if my restaurant doesn't need me back and this unemployment just becomes $400 extra a week, or, this week, I'm not expecting really much at all except for the state unemployment. I'm going to start to really have to reconsider, do I need to go find another job? Do I need to really push to make my restaurant hire me back so that I can, pay rent, pay bills, anything?
Yeah. And Ivy, there's an argument that's made often by Republicans, although now that the president has signed this unemployment executive order, we're not hearing it as much. But there's been an argument made by Republicans that essentially by providing such a quote-unquote generous benefit, it's keeping people at home and it's depressing the labor market so people aren't going back to work the way that they really should be. What would be your response to that?
Ted Cruz said that, my senator. He went on and said that the busboys aren't coming back because they make more in unemployment. And it's just patently not true. First of all, whatever Ted Cruz was saying was completely anecdotal. And so I'll say my anecdotal evidence is that I know plenty of restaurant workers who were making more on unemployment and chose to go back to work. So not only that, but there was a Yale study that came out that said it does not de-incentivize workers to go back to work. Furthermore, if people don't want to go back to work because they're making more on unemployment, that speaks to a problem of the industry, that these workers have been making poverty wages. Why should they want to go back to a workplace where they're not even making 15 an hour, which is how they got to that number of 600, 15 times 40 hours a week?
Mm-hmm.
I think those are all excellent points, Ivy. We're so glad to have you this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ivy.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.